Hey guys, happy Friday. So we are going to pick up with the next part of the Odyssey in this video. There's actually going to be two stories in this video, the challenge and Death of the Palace. Sometimes Death of the Palace is called Odysseus' Revenge. For our purpose, we're going to call it Death at the Palace, just because I like that better. It's easier for people to say. So you have both of these stories. They've been posted on Google Classroom. It's in the same document, the challenge and Death of the Palace. So please make sure you pull that up as we go through this to read. So in last class, first things first, make sure you do warm-up number 9. In last class, we saw Odysseus arrive back in Ithaca. Athena disguises him as a beggar. He's reunited with his son after Athena takes that beggar disguise away. He tells Telemachus all of his plans for how he is going to take his kingdom back from the suitors. Remember, we have all of these suitors. Remember, there's hundreds of them. There's so many of them from all over the world trying to woo Penelope. Penelope being Odysseus' wife, they're trying to get her to marry them so that they can become king of Ithaca. So all of these hostile suitors that are in Odysseus' kingdom are trying to get Penelope. They're taking advantage of the women who are in the kingdom. They're eating all of the food. They're kind of being destructive. So Odysseus is not very happy with them. He's already thought through this plan, and he tells Telemachus what he needs to do. What we know so far is that Telemachus needs to go to the hall where all the suitors are, and he needs to take all of the weapons out. He has an excuse for them, saying that he doesn't want the sun and the fire to be ruining the metal, so he's going to put them away safely. And then all of these men are like, okay, they have no reason to suspect that something fishy is going on. So Telemachus is going to go do that, and then we're going to see Odysseus return to the palace. Now, Athena disguises Odysseus again with his beggar disguise, and that's how he enters the kingdom. He goes back into his palace, and he sees things he recognizes. He actually sees his old dog that's still alive from before he left, and then sadly that dog passes away in the story, so we're not going to read that part. That part is very sad. But he goes back into the kingdom, into the palace, and Penelope has decided at this point that she is going to set a challenge for the suitors. She's finally getting pushed to the point where she says, I have to make a decision. It's been 20 years. I have to decide to marry one of them, or I'm just going to keep getting pushed for the rest of my life. So she sets a challenge, and that's where this first story is going to pick up, is with the challenge itself. Okay, so make sure you have your document out. We're going to go ahead and start reading that. The challenge. Pressed by the suitors to choose a husband from among them, Penelope says that she will marry the man who can string Odysseus' bow and shoot an arrow through 12 axe handle sockets. The suitors try and fail. Still in disguise, Odysseus asks for a turn and gets it. So we skipped over a little bit of the story there just because it's unnecessary. But Penelope sets this challenge, and she says to the men, if you can string Odysseus' old bow and shoot one single arrow through all 12 axe heads, which are these little handle things that are on the axes. Picture the axe upside down. If you can shoot the arrow through there and do that perfectly, then you will get to marry me. You'll get to become king of Ithaca. She knows this is a very hard task because in the past, the only person who's ever been able to string Odysseus' bow, what I mean by string the bow is actually get this string onto the bow. And the only person who's ever been able to do that in the past is Odysseus himself. So Odysseus, disguised as a beggar, is in this palace. He's in this hall, and he hasn't been treated very well when he first came into the hall. One of the suitors actually threw a chair at him. They ridiculed him just like they were making fun of him for being a beggar. But he says, can I have a chance at doing this? And they do have to grant it to him. And Odysseus took his time, turning the bow, tapping it every inch for borings that termites might have made, while the master of the weapon was abroad. The suitors were now watching him, and some jested among themselves. A bow lover, dealer in bows. Maybe he has one like it at home, or has an itch to make one for himself. See how he handles it, the sly old buzzard. So Odysseus is taking his time. He's sitting on a stool. He's looking at the bow. He's making sure that there's no termites, making sure that everything is the same way he left it. This is one of the first times that we're seeing Odysseus actually think something through. Normally he's kind of rash, jumping into things, but now he is taking his time. He's making sure that everything is good because he has to win this. He has to prove to them that he's Odysseus. And one disdainful suitor added this, may his fortune grow an inch for every inch he bends it. But the man, skilled in all ways of contending, satisfied by the great bow's look and heft, like a musician, like a harper, when with a quiet hand upon his instrument he draws between his thumb and forefinger the sweet new string upon a peg so effortlessly, Odysseus in one motion strung the bow. So Odysseus takes the string. We have that simile there comparing him to like a musician stringing the bows, plucking the cords, and he strings it and does it perfectly in one go. Then he slid his hand down the cord and plucked it, so the taut got vibrating, hummed, and sang a swallow's note. So he does it perfectly. Everything is in order. In the hushed hall, it smote the suitors, and all their faces changed. So the suitors realize Odysseus has done this, and all of them are suddenly like, they're no longer trying to psych him out. They're no longer trying to insult him like they were before. They are in awe that he was able to string this bow, something they were not able to do. Then Zeus thundered overhead, one loud crack for a sign, and Odysseus laughed within him that the son of crooked-minded Cronos had flung that omen down. So Zeus gives him this omen, this good omen that he is on his side now. The gods have kind of changed it up a little bit. Athena is kind of the curator of that. She has caused Zeus to be on his side here as well. So then Zeus thundered down overhead, one loud crack for a sign, and Odysseus laughed with him that the son of crooked-minded Cronos had flung that omen down. He picked one ready arrow from his table where it lay bare. The rest were waiting still in the quiver for the young man's turn to come. He knocked it, let it rest across the hand grip, drew the string, and grooved butt of the arrow, aiming it from where he sat upon the stool. I want you to picture this image. Odysseus isn't in this powerful stance. He still has this disguise as a beggar. He is just sitting on a stool, pulling the arrow back, getting ready to shoot it through the axe heads. Now flashed arrow from twanging bow, clean as a whistle, through every socket ring, and grazed not one, to thud with heavy brazen head beyond. So he does do it. He shoots the arrow, it goes straight through the axe heads, and lands on the other side. Odysseus said, Telemachus, the stranger you welcomed in your hall has not disgraced you. I did not miss, neither did I take all day stringing the bow. My hand and eye are sound, not so contemptible as the young men say. The hour has come to cook their lordships mutton supper by daylight, other amusements later with song and harping, the adorn a feast. He dropped his eyes and nodded, and the prince Telemachus, true son of King Odysseus, belted his sword on, clapped his hand to his spear, and with a clinking glitter of keen bronze, stood by his chair in the forefront near his father. So Odysseus has completed this challenge. He's the only one who was successful. Technically, Penelope has to take him for his wife. Now, Odysseus doesn't immediately kind of attack the suitors or go for Penelope. He turns to Telemachus and said, now is the time, son. We are going to enact our plan. And then Telemachus straps on his gear, grabs his spear, and he is ready to fight with Odysseus. So that is the end of the challenge. That is the first story. We're going to jump straight in now to death at the palace. The climax of the story is here in Book 22. Although Odysseus is ready to reclaim his kingdom, he must first confront more than 100 hostile suitors. The first one he turns to is Antinous. All through the story, Antinous has been the meanest of the suitors and their ringleader. So when you actually read the Odyssey in its entirety, and we don't skip around as much as we have been, you actually get to see some more of the suitors and Penelope. And we see that Antinous is kind of this horrible ringleader, this person who really wants Penelope to give in to him. He hit Odysseus with a stool when the hero appeared in the hall as a beggar, and he ridiculed the disguised king by calling him a bleary vagabond, a pest, and a tramp. So he's the one who threw the chair at Odysseus. He's kind of the meanest. He's this ringleader, this person that is supposedly in control of all of these other suitors. Now, shrugging off his rags, the williest fighter of the islands leapt and stood on the broad doorsill, his own bow in his hand. He poured out at his feet a rain of arrows from the quiver and spoke to the crowd. So Odysseus springs up onto the stool, sheds his beggar gear, and he is aiming at all of these suitors. So much for that. Your clean-cut game is over. Now watch me hit a target that no man has hit before. If I can make this shot, help me, Apollo. So Apollo, remember the sun god, he's also the god of almost everything else, music, archery. So he is praying to Apollo, help me shoot a target that no man has ever hit before. I want you to think where that might be. It is the humans in that hall. They haven't been hit in the heart by an arrow before because they're still alive. So Odysseus is saying, I'm going to shoot these men, and I hope Apollo helps me here. He drew to his fist the cruel head of an arrow for Antinous, just as the young man leaned to lift his beautiful drinking cup, embossed two-handled golden. The cup was in his fingers. The wine was even at his lips. So these men do not know anything is going wrong yet. They do not know that Odysseus is Odysseus. They don't know that they're all about to die. So right now, they are just drinking. They're being merry. So he's lifting up his cup. The wine was even at his lips, and did he dream of death? How could he? In that revelry, amid his throng of friends, who would imagine a single foe, though a strong foe indeed, could dare to bring death's pain on him and darkness on his eyes? Odysseus's arrow hit him under the chin and punched up to the feathers through his throat. So Odysseus shoots him directly through the throat as he is drinking his wine, straight through, and the arrow goes all the way to the feathers. Backward and down he went, letting the wine cup fall from his shocked hand. It's very dramatic. Like pipes, his nostrils jetted crimson runnels, a river of mortal red. So when you can picture this imagery that's being painted for you here, he is falling back. This arrow is out of him. He's choking on his own blood. And it says that nostrils jetted crimson runnels. That is just blood shooting out of his nostrils because he just got shot in the throat. And one last kick upset his table, knocking the bread and meat to soak in dusty blood. Now as they craned to see their champion where he lay, the suitors jostled an uproar down the hall, everyone on his feet. Wildly they turned and scanned the walls and the long room for arms, but not a shield, not a good ashen spear was there for a man to take and throw. So now all the men in the hall are suddenly, oh my god, he just died. He literally just killed him. So the first thing they do is jump up and try to find some shields and try to find some spears. But we know Telemachus has removed all of that stuff already. Odysseus had that plan. So there's nothing in this hall for the men to use. Now we're seeing Odysseus' plan, this kind of really intelligent plan, come into action. All they could do was yell in outrage at Odysseus. Foul to shoot at a man! That was your last shot. Your own throat will be slit for this. So we're seeing how their attitudes change. At first, they're not concerned at all. And now they are really concerned and they want to kill Odysseus. They're threatening Odysseus. They're saying, how dare you do that? They do not know yet that it is Odysseus. Our finest lad is down. You killed the best on Ithaca. Buzzards will tear your eyes out, for they imagined as they wished that it was a wild shot, an unintended killing. Fools not to comprehend that they were already in the grip of death. So what these men think is that Odysseus, this beggar, just killed Antinous on accident, that it wasn't an intentional killing. They are mistaken there. But glaring under his brows, Odysseus answered, You yellow dogs! You thought I'd never make it home from the land of Troy. You took my house to plunder, twisted my maids to serve your beds. You dared bid for my wife while I was still alive. Contempt was all you had for the gods who rule wide heaven. Contempt for what men say of you hereafter. Your last hour has come. You die in blood. So Odysseus stands up. He makes it very clear that he is Odysseus, that they have wronged him in this way, that they have wronged the gods, and that it is time for them to die. As they took all of this in, sickly green fear pulled at their entrails, and their eyes flickered, looking for some hatch or hideaway from death. So, again, attitudes changing. They start out being, oh, nothing's going wrong. Then they turn into, you're going to die for this. And now they turn into, oh my god, he's going to kill me. So they have this fear now that they're, after they found out that he is actually Odysseus. Eurymachus alone could speak, he said. If you are Odysseus of Ithaca, come back. All that you say these men have done is true. Rash actions, many here, more in the countryside, but here he lies, the man who caused them all. Antinous was the ringleader. He whipped us on to do all of these things. He cared less for a marriage than for the power Cronus has denied him as king of Ithaca. So, what he is saying here is that he was meant to be, or Antinous was this leader. He really just wanted to be king of Ithaca. He didn't care for Penelope. The rest of us actually cared for Penelope. The rest of us are actually pretty decent. We've just been doing what he said. So basically, he's blaming the dead guy. The dead guy can't fight back. So Eurymachus is just trying to take the coward's way out here. For that, he tried to trap your son and would have killed him. He is dead now and has his portion. Spare your own people. As for ourselves, we'll make restitution of wine and meat consumed, and add, each one, a tithe of 20 oxen with gifts of bronze and gold to warm your heart. Meanwhile, we cannot blame you for your anger. So what Eurymachus is saying here, he's like, I get you're angry. Sorry about that. I'm not going to blame you for that. But you should let us go. We're going to give you everything that we have taken, all the meat, everything we drank. We'll even give you gifts of gold and bronze. Everything we have at home, we will give you. Just let us live. We're going to see in a second if Odysseus will let them do that. It could be something that Odysseus could say, okay, I killed the ringleader, killed the leader. I can let all of these other men go. Odysseus glowered under his black brows and said, not for the whole treasure of your fathers, all you enjoy, lands, flocks, or any gold put up by others, would I hold my hand. So he's saying, you can't offer me anything. I'm not going to stop this. There will be killing till the score is paid. You forced yourselves upon this house. Fight your way out and run for it if you think you'll escape death. I doubt one man of you skins by. So what Odysseus says, he says, try to fight, try to get out. It's your only option. And I'm going to tell you right now that I have confidence that I'm going to kill every single one of you, and not a single one of you will make it out of here alive. It's pretty confident saying here from Odysseus. Now, I do want you to remember not every single suitor is in this hall, just some of them, but this is a sign to all the other suitors too that they could die. Telemachus joins his father in the fight. They are helped by the swineherd and the cowherd. Now the suitors, trapped in the hall without weapons, are struck right and left by arrows. and many of them lie dying on the floor. So Telemachus, Odysseus, the swineherd, and the cowherd all go to town killing these men, and a lot of them are just dying on the floor, which you see with this image on the screen. At this moment, that unmanning thundercloud, the Aegis Athena's shield, took form aloft in the great hall. So Athena puts a sign up of her shield that is kind of a signal that she is present in the hall during this battle. Remember, she's this goddess of battle strategy and wisdom. And the suitors, mad with fear at her great sign, stampeded like stung cattle by a river when the dread shimmering Gafly strikes in summer, in the flowering season, in the long-drawn days. After them, the attackers wheeled, as terrible as falcons from Ares, in the mountains veering over and diving down with talons wide unsheathed on flights of birds, who cower down the sky in shoots and bursts along the valley. But the pouncing falcons grip their prey, no frantic wing avails, and farmers love to watch those beat hunters. So basically, that's a really long simile there simile of comparing this attack that's happening, these attackers attacking these suitors, to this kind of image of a bird shooting down from the sky to capture their prey. All of these men are starting to panic even more now. So they were scared before, and now they're panicking because they realize that there's a god on Odysseus' side. They know now that Athena is here, she's present, and she's helping Odysseus, and that means they really have no chance of winning. So these now fell upon the suitors in that hall, turning to strike and strike again, while torn men moaned at death, and blood ran smoking over the whole floor. So Odysseus and Telemachus and the cowherd and the swineherd, along with Athena, kill every single suitor that's in this hall. They don't let anyone live. And that is kind of Odysseus's revenge on these men who have been taking his palace and kind of abusing their power over the women, over the men, over the things that do not belong to them. So that we see that Odysseus kind of goes really intense here. He doesn't only kill a few of them and use that as a sign. He kills a lot of them, which is, some people might consider righteous, some people might consider wrathful, which is what you are going to do on your worksheet for this lesson, but you're going to do that on Monday. All that you have left to do today is I'm going to post the link to the mini-series where you can actually watch this scene and watch the challenge and watch Death at the Palace, so you can see a visual of how all this plays out. But you do not have any other work today other than completing those questions when we get into class on Monday. Other than that, I hope you enjoy your Friday. Thanks for watching.